Galactic Court gave her a deadline, so she threw herself at me. Deadline from the stars. Zara Novak cursed as the temperature regulator sparked against her fingers. Another day, another patch job on Helios 12, the forgotten orbital station circling an even more forgotten mining planet. The repair bay reeked of burnt circuitry and recycled air, an aroma that had become as familiar to her as her own sweat. "Hold together, you piece of junk," she muttered, forcing the wrench against a corroded valve. The station groaned around her, its ancient superstructure protesting every repair like a patient too old for surgery. A warning light flickered overhead, bathing her workspace in erratic red pulses. Zara ignored it, just another system failure in an endless queue. Half the station was running on her improvised fixes, and station management paid her just enough to keep her from leaving, not enough to make her care. She wiped grease from her forehead, leaving a dark smudge across tanned skin. At 32, she'd spent the last decade on this rusting can, watching younger techs come and go while she remained, becoming as much a fixture as the failing life support systems she maintained. The repair bay door slid open with a pneumatic hiss, unusual, as nobody ventured to the lower maintenance decks unless something critical had failed. Zara didn't look up. "Whatever it is, file a work order," she said, reaching for the sealant spray. "I'm backed up 3 days on priority repairs." "I am not here to file a work order," came a voice like polished crystal striking metal. That made her turn. Standing in her doorway was a figure who had no business being in the station's grimy underbelly. Tall and regal, with skin the color of pale jade that seemed to shimmer beneath the harsh lights. Not human, Centaurian, if she had to guess, though she'd never seen one in person. He wore clothing that could only be called ceremonial, a high-collared suit of midnight blue material that moved like liquid, adorned with geometric patterns that seemed to shift when he moved. His eyes were the most striking feature, solid violet, with no visible pupils, yet somehow conveying intensity that made Zara straighten instinctively. "This is a restricted area," she said, setting down her tools. "Engineering personnel only." The visitor assessed the cramped space with a single sweeping glance. "You are Zara Novak, Chief Maintenance Engineer of Orbital Station Helios 12? "I'm the only maintenance engineer," she corrected. "The chief part is just to make the job sound important enough to keep me here. I am Theron Vex of House Solarian, 7th line of the Centaurian Republic." He moved further into the space, each step deliberate. "I require a spouse within 48 standard hours, and I have selected you." Zara blinked, certain she'd misheard. "You what now?" Theron reached into his suit and withdrew a thin crystalline tablet. "My selection is not random. Your profile indicates no political affiliations, no family entanglements, significant technical aptitude, and minimal social connections that might complicate matters." She stared at him. "Are you malfunctioning or something?" His expression didn't change, but something subtle shifted in his posture. "I assure you, I am functioning within optimal parameters. This is a matter of considerable urgency." Zara laughed, a short, harsh sound. "Right. An alien aristocrat just happens to wander into the station bowels to propose to the grease monkey. What's the scam? Did Jorvik from level 3 put you up to this?" "I am unfamiliar with this Jorvik." Theron extended the tablet toward her. "If you will review the contract, you will find the terms favorable. Full citizenship within the Republic, diplomatic exemption from station jurisprudence, access to House Solarian accounts, and naturally, adequate living quarters." She didn't take the tablet. "What's the catch? People like you don't just appear and offer fairy tale deals without a major hook." Something flashed in those violet eyes, frustration, perhaps, or admiration for her skepticism. "The catch, as you term it, is Centaurian inheritance law." His voice remained even, but tension crept in around the edges. "My bond mate of 17 cycles was lost in the Rigel conflict 3 standard days ago. By ancient statute, I have 72 hours to secure a new marriage bond, or the entirety of House Solarian's holdings will revert to the Republic Treasury. And if that happens? Then I become nothing, he said simply. Without a household, I forfeit my status, my protection, and likely my freedom. The Republic does not look kindly upon displaced nobles. At best, I would be conscripted into diplomatic service. At worst. He didn't finish the sentence. Zara studied him more carefully now. Beneath the regal bearing and exotic features, she detected something familiar, desperation wrapped in dignity. She'd seen it in the faces of station workers when life support thinned, when supply ships ran late, when hope dwindled. Why me? There must be thousands of better options than a human stuck on a dying station. 17,423 candidates were evaluated, he replied. Most presented political complications. The remaining options were filtered for practical compatibility and minimal risk of challenge from rival houses. She crossed her arms. So I'm literally your least problematic option. You undervalue yourself, Theron said, head tilted slightly. Your technical skills would be highly prized. And you are. His eyes moved over her face with clinical precision, adaptable. You have survived in suboptimal conditions with minimal resources. These are traits my house could benefit from. A tremor ran through the station, making the lights flicker. Neither of them acknowledged it. And what happens after? Zara asked. Assuming I agree to this insanity, do we just stay married forever? The contract includes provisions for dissolution after one standard year, should either party wish it. You would retain citizenship and a generous settlement. Zara's hand drifted to her neck, fingering the small pendant hidden beneath her work coveralls, the last link to a life before Helios 12, before she'd become just another forgotten component in a failing system. Let me get this straight, she said slowly. You want me to drop everything, marry you, move to wherever it is you live, all within 2 days, and then what? Play house with an alien I just met? I require a legal spouse, not a companion, Theron clarified. Your daily activities would be your own unless formal appearances are necessary. You would want for nothing material. Another station tremor, stronger this time. A warning light began flashing on her console, environmental system struggling again. I need to fix that, she said, nodding toward the alert. Is this station not condemned? Theron asked. My intelligence indicates Helios 12 is scheduled for decommissioning within 6 months. Zara froze. What? Has station management not informed personnel? The orbit is degrading. Evacuation protocols should have begun already. She felt the blood drain from her face. Management had mentioned restructuring, but nothing about evacuation or decommissioning. They'd continued assigning her repair work, continued promising that supply shipments would improve. You're saying this whole station is... She couldn't finish. Dying, Theron completed. Yes. Much like my prospects without a suitable marriage. Perhaps we are not so different in our predicaments. Zara's mind raced. 10 years of her life spent keeping this place running, only to learn it was already scheduled for demolition. No savings worth mentioning. No connections off-station. No future. The tablet, please, she said, extending her hand. Theron placed the crystalline device in her palm. Its surface was cool, its weight almost negligible. The contract glowed from within, intricate legal language, seals of the Centaurian Republic, provisions for citizenship, financial arrangements, personal freedoms. This is real, she said, more statement than question. Entirely. And all I have to do is sign it and marry you within 2 days? 47 hours and 16 minutes, to be precise, he corrected. We would need to depart immediately. The Validation Council awaits. Another alarm joined the first, their discordant tones filling the maintenance bay. Somewhere above, something important had failed, and soon her comm would buzz with demands for immediate repair. Zara looked around at the dingy workshop, her home for a decade, a place that had been slowly killing her while she fixed it, a place that apparently had no intention of returning the favor. She pressed her thumb to the tablet. It chimed softly, recording her biometric signature. "Let me grab my toolkit," she said. "Is that necessary?" Theron asked. Zara gave him a look that brooked no argument. "I don't go anywhere without my tools. Consider it my dowry." A barely perceptible smile flickered across his jade features. "As you wish, future bond mate." As they left the maintenance bay, the alarms continued their urgent wail, but for the first time in years, they weren't Zara's problem anymore. The station could finish dying without her. She was going to the stars, not as a mechanic, but as a bride with a deadline, married to a stranger from a civilization she barely understood. It wasn't freedom, exactly, but it was change. And after a decade of stagnation, change felt remarkably like hope. Hearts in zero gravity. Theron's ship wasn't what Zara had expected. Instead of the ostentatious luxury cruiser befitting an alien aristocrat, it was a sleek, practical vessel with clean lines and efficient design. The engineering was exquisite, she could tell that much as they docked with the orbital transfer station above Helios 12. "You approve of the vessel?" Theron asked, noting her appraising gaze. "It's
functional," she replied, running her fingers along a perfectly calibrated intake valve. "Better maintained than anything I've seen in years." "I maintain it myself," he said simply. That surprised her. Thought nobles had people for that sort of thing. "We do. But I prefer the work." A pause. "My father believed that to command effectively, one must understand the systems upon which one's life depends." Zara felt a twinge of unexpected respect. Her toolkit, her only luggage, suddenly felt less out of place. The interior of the ship continued the theme of practical elegance. Clean expanses of what looked like burnished metal but felt warm to the touch. Lighting that adjusted to their movements. And a hum of machinery that sang of perfect calibration. "We have 39 hours until the Validation Council," Theron said, guiding her toward what appeared to be living quarters. "You should rest. The journey to Centauri Prime will take 11 hours. "I'm not tired," Zara lied, though exhaustion clung to her like station grime. "Tell me more about this validation process. What exactly are we walking into?" Theron gestured to a curved seating area that molded itself to her form as she sat. "The Council will conduct biometric scans, assess behavioral synchronicity, and evaluate our bond's authenticity. So they'll know immediately that this is fake," she said flatly. His violet eyes fixed on her. "Not fake. Unconventional. The Council cares about compatibility, not romance. Many Centaurian marriages begin as alliances of convenience." "What exactly does behavioral synchronicity mean?" she asked. "Our ability to occupy shared space without dissonance. Physical proximity. Familiar gestures." Zara snorted. "We met 8 hours ago. How are we supposed to fake familiarity?" "Practice," he said simply, and sat beside her, close enough that his arm brushed against hers. She stiffened instinctively. Personal space was precious on a crowded station. "This will not succeed if you recoil from my touch," Theron observed. "I'm not used to this," she gestured vaguely between them. "Nor am I," something in his tone made her look at him more carefully. Behind the composed exterior, there was tension in the set of his shoulders, in the too precise way he held himself. "Your previous marriage, the one that ended, was it like this too? An arrangement?" His gaze shifted to the viewport where stars streaked by. "No. Talara and I grew up together. Our bonding was expected, but not unwelcome." "You loved her," Zara said, not a question. "She was my companion for 17 cycles." His voice remained even, but his fingers, long and elegant,
curled slightly against his thigh. Her diplomatic shuttle was intercepted near the Rigel border. There were no survivors. Zara felt an unexpected pang of sympathy. "I'm sorry." "As am I," he turned back to her. "But regret serves no purpose. We must prepare." He extended his hand, palm up. Zara hesitated, then placed her hand in his. His skin was cooler than a human's, but not unpleasantly so. Smooth, with a slight texture like fine suede. "The council will expect casual contact," he explained. "Hand touching. Proximity. Perhaps more." "More?" Zara raised an eyebrow. "Nothing inappropriate," he assured her. "But convincing." For the next several hours, they practiced. Standing beside each other without tension. The casual brush of hands. Learning to read subtle shifts in posture and expression. It was mechanical at first, like learning dance steps, but gradually became less awkward. "Tell me about yourself," Theron said as they shared a meal of surprisingly familiar foods adapted for human palates. "Your history. Your preferences. Things a bond-mate would know." "Not much to tell," Zara shrugged. "Grew up in the outer colonies. Parents were Terra engineers. Station life since I was 20. And before the station?" She hesitated, fingers drifting to the pendant beneath her collar. "I was married once. Didn't work out." "I see." Theron didn't press. Instead, he offered, "I dislike diplomatic functions but excel at them. I prefer silence while working. I sleep only 4 hours per night. I talk to machines when I fix them," Zara found herself saying. "Can't sleep without background noise. And I've never been anywhere important." "Centauri Prime is significant," Theron said. "The council building alone covers 12 square kilometers." Zara tried to imagine it and couldn't. Her entire world had been compressed into maintenance shafts and cramped quarters for so long. As the ship approached Centauri Prime, Theron showed her to private chambers where attire had been prepared. The clothing wasn't the ornate finery she'd expected, but practical garments in rich materials, designed for comfort while meeting Centaurian aesthetic standards. "These fit perfectly," she said suspiciously, examining her reflection in a wall that had transformed into a mirror. "Your measurements were in your station file," Theron explained. Of course they were, she muttered, but couldn't deny the clothes felt better than anything she'd worn in years. When she emerged, Theron had also changed into simpler formal wear, still regal but less ceremonial than when he'd appeared in her workshop. "Acceptable?" he asked, and she realized he was asking for her approval of his appearance. "You look, yeah. Fine." She cleared her throat. "Very noble." A small smile curved his lips. "You clean up remarkably well yourself, Zara Novak." The descent to Centauri Prime was breathtaking. The planet's surface shimmered with massive crystalline structures that caught the light of twin suns. Graceful ships moved through designated lanes like schools of exotic fish. "It's beautiful," Zara admitted as they approached a sprawling compound of interconnected buildings nestled against a mountain range. "House Solarian," Theron said. "My home." "Our home, temporarily." The landing was smooth, and as they disembarked, Zara braced herself for servants or guards. Instead, only a single attendant waited, another Centaurian with darker jade skin and silver markings around their eyes. "The council representatives arrive in 4 hours," the attendant informed Theron. "They request informal observation before formal validation." "Informal observation?" Zara whispered as they were escorted into the compound. "They wish to see us in our natural habitat," Theron explained quietly. "Unguarded. Authentic." "Great," she muttered. "No pressure." The interior of House Solarian was a study in contrasts, ancient architecture housing advanced technology, traditional art alongside practical innovations. It reminded Zara of Theron himself, tradition wrapped around unexpected practicality. He showed her through the main living spaces, his workshop, impressively equipped, and finally, to private quarters that would be hers. "We must share the suite," he explained, "but these rooms are yours alone." He gestured to a door. "I will occupy the adjacent chamber." The rooms were spacious, airy, with views of mountains that seemed to shift colors in the changing light. Nothing like the metal box she'd called home for a decade. "This is a lot," she said, feeling suddenly overwhelmed. Theron studied her face. "You require time to acclimate." "I don't think time is something we have much of," she reminded him. 23 minutes, he corrected. "Before the observers arrive discreetly. They will watch from a distance, noting our interactions." Zara sat heavily on a cushioned bench. "And what exactly should those interactions look like?" "I'm not an actor." "Then don't act," Theron said, sitting beside her. "Simply be present. With me." Something in his tone made her look up. Their eyes met, and for the first time, she saw uncertainty in his gaze. "You're afraid," she realized. "Not afraid," he corrected. "Concerned. I have responsibilities to my house, to those who depend on Solarian protection and resources. What happens to them if we fail? Reassignment. Dispersal. Some would find positions in other households. Others would face less favorable circumstances." The weight of it settled on her shoulders. This wasn't just about Theron's status or her escape from a dying station. Real lives depended on their performance. "Show me something," she said suddenly. "Something? Something personal. Something real about you. If we're going to convince anyone, I need to know who you actually are, not just the noble with the perfect posture." Theron considered this, then held out his hand. After a moment, she took it. He led her through a series of corridors to a chamber she wouldn't have expected, a garden. But unlike any garden she'd seen. Plants of impossible configurations grew in delicate spirals. Flowers that seemed made of light rather than matter bloomed silently. At the center stood a tree with bark like polished obsidian and leaves that chimed softly in a breeze she couldn't feel. "I created this," Theron said quietly. "A solarium of hybrid species. Plants from different worlds, adapted to coexist." Zara touched a leaf gently. It responded to her finger, curling slightly, almost affectionately. "You're a botanist?" "A hobbyist," he corrected. "The biogenetic patterns are soothing to contemplate." She looked at him with new eyes. "You make things grow in impossible conditions. Is that so different from maintaining systems others would abandon as hopeless?" he asked. Their eyes met, and something shifted between them, recognition, perhaps, of kindred spirits disguised in different forms. A soft chime sounded, breaking the moment. "They're here," Theron said. Zara took a deep breath. "Then let's convince them." The observation was subtle, occasional glimpses of attendants who weren't really attendants, sensors disguised as decorative elements. Zara and Theron moved through the house, not performing but simply existing in proximity. She asked about systems that interested her, he explained with unexpected patience. They shared another meal, and she found herself genuinely curious about Centaurian customs. The formal validation, when it came, was held in a chamber of curved walls and floating lights. 3 counselors, distinguished by elaborate markings and formal attire, conducted the proceedings. The questions were probing, designed to reveal inconsistencies. The biometric scans measured reactions to proximity, to touch, to shared space. "Why this human?" one counselor asked Theron directly. "Your house has connections to 17 eligible Centaurian families." "Zara possesses qualities I value," Theron answered. "Resourcefulness. Adaptability. Technical acumen." "And what do you gain from this arrangement?" another asked Zara. She glanced at Theron, then back to the counselor. A second chance, she said honestly. And maybe a place where things aren't always falling apart faster than I can fix them. When Theron's hand found hers during the final scan, she didn't flinch. His fingers interlaced with hers, and it felt less like an act with each passing moment. The counselors conferred silently, then the eldest spoke. The validation is complete. The bond is recognized. House Solarian's status is confirmed under the continued leadership of Theron Vex and his bondmate, Zara Novak Vex. Relief washed through her, but it wasn't the only emotion. There was something else, something unexpected and fragile taking root. Later, as the twin sun set behind the crystalline mountains, casting the room in amber light, Theron found her on the balcony of their shared suite. "It is done," he said, standing beside her. "So what happens now?" she asked. "Now," he said thoughtfully, "we build something neither of us anticipated." "What's that?" "A partnership of choice, not necessity." He turned to face her. "The deadline forced our meeting, but what follows is unwritten." Zara looked out at the alien landscape, beautiful, unknown, filled with possibility. Then back at Theron, who was gradually becoming less alien by the hour. "I'm good at fixing broken things," she said. "Not so experienced with building new ones." "Then we will learn together," he replied, and extended his hand, not as part of a performance now, but as an invitation. She took it, feeling the cool smoothness of his palm against hers. This time, when their fingers interlaced, it wasn't practice or pretense. It was a beginning. Above them, stars emerged in an unfamiliar sky, witnesses to a marriage formed in desperation but evolving into something neither had dared hope for, a connection that transcended obligation, growing like Theron's impossible garden, finding life in the unlikeliest conditions. Zara squeezed his hand gently, and for the first time since leaving her station, felt truly at home.